so many businesses going out there today, starting up and still falling over. And it's because they didn't do the groundwork in the first place. And even with the groundwork, sometimes the mind tricks the outcome. And it's easy in hindsight, of course, as we say to, well, maybe I didn't do the homework. Well, yes, I did do the homework. But truly, very, very hard. Another question, just to break the process a little bit, is people say, before I ask everybody questions, so what's your favourite meat? Is it chicken, beef, lamb or pork? Well, to be honest with you, I'm lucky. I like it all. You can't tell. I've got to say I like drinking red wine better, more. In fact, I think it's around about 50,000 hours I've been drinking red wine, and I think it's about 30,000 hours I've been eating, so I'm actually outgrowing it quickly. No, I like a good steak like anybody, and I like a good dash of red. And I've been lucky now because I've been fairly successful, and Lenards is successful. I'm glad to enjoy it, but heaven's sake, that's one of the greatest things about being successful is that you can sit down and have a good glass of red in a steak. A little bit more about Lenards now, the future. I'll tell you a quick story. I was only telling Peter Allison just a few minutes ago about Lenard stepping outside of Australia around about 6 or 8 years ago and going to the idea of having the little black book and the big thick black book and business structure, and we're going to go to America and we're going to take America on. It was all fantastic, and as I said before, you can't let the brain get tricked. So I went to America for a week or so before I met some people over there and did some market research with a very good friend of Peter's, John Kenny, and I did a very hard trip in a week. I went to so many shopping centres and so many supermarkets and so many outlets on the East Coast especially, and I realised that Lenards itself wasn't going to work in America. Now, heaven's sake, it wasn't the product. There's no way knowing. The product will work in America and it will be very successful, but what it was is that they don't do standalone supermarkets like that. They only have standalones. They buy all their food in the supermarket. They do not have chicken shops or butcher shops outside or fruit shops outside. It's all done through a standalone supermarket. So identifying that, I said, look, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to get people to invest in my business and then find out that we can't deliver what we need to do in America. We're talking about, you know, $20 million capital raising to get it going, all this sort of stuff. So I said, I'm going to go home and I'll talk to you people in probably 5 years' time. And what I did was really worked hard in us trying to find a supermarket that I could work in and find a model, Lenards model, to suit a supermarket. So for about 3 years I worked with a Richie's company and a couple of other small IGA companies outside of the national company in Adelaide, Melbourne and far north Queensland. I worked for the IGA independents. And we open up around about 20 odd stores. And the IGA network, which is owned by Metcash, they approached us and said after we'd done such a good job, they actually decided that they'll give us a lot of money and say, thank you very much, but we want you in all our stores and we don't want you to go into any other supermarket. So we were very happy with that. But what it has done is given us a model now that can actually leap-bound and go into places like America and Asia and those regions. I've just got back from, as I said, from Singapore, where I'm talking to the second largest supermarket chain in the world, and I hope in the next year or so, it won't happen overnight because we think it will, and you think, well, why can't Lenards go and open up all these stores? It's understanding the regions, it's understanding the culture, it's understanding where it fits in the marketplace. But we'll probably have our first 2 or 3 stores in Singapore in the next 6 months, which will be a stepping stone to places like Indonesia and Malaysia and China. And hopefully sometime this year we'll be introduced into America through the IGA group. But quickly and shortly, I suppose I've summarised Lenards fairly quickly. I know there's some business questions you might want to ask, but that's where Lenards is heading today. And is there any questions?
Sure.
Haven't rushed through it too much.
All right, who's got one? Thanks, my name is. I've got a question about the franchising side of things in terms of you're saying that the brand is very important in a franchise, so therefore you're looking as a franchisor to make sure you've got compliance among your franchisees to the brand. But how do you make sure that that doesn't stifle innovation amongst all of those entrepreneurs who are your franchisees? How do you deal with that?
Well, if a franchisee was an entrepreneur, he wouldn't come to a franchise company in the first place. Honestly, because the last thing in the world is a franchise company wants is an entrepreneur. Okay, does that answer it? Because basically, in a franchise agreement, there's two parts of a franchise agreement. There's our side and their side. And when a franchisee comes to that model, most franchisees don't understand their commitment to a franchise model. But the franchisor that brings his model to the table knows totally what his commitment is to making sure that franchisee is successful. And to me, where franchise models fall down is not the franchisor not knowing how much he has to give to that franchisee, but more importantly, the franchisee not knowing how much he has to give back to the franchisee. Franchisee giving back to the franchisor. You'll find a lot of arguments between franchisors and franchisees is usually not on the business model, not on this. It's usually a difference of opinion and the expectation. We have franchisees out there who think that they know more. They go through a J curve. A franchisee comes in, he goes through a J curve, up and down and down. And honestly, when they get up there, they know more than you do. And you've got to wait for them to come down before they can get on with business. But really, entrepreneurial franchise, I don't believe a good entrepreneur would buy a franchise. A good entrepreneur would be creating and developing himself and not letting up. A good entrepreneur does not let go of what he's got. He keeps driving and driving and driving until he gets it. Remember, I'm sitting here in front of you, but we are the only company in the world that does what we do. There's nobody else in the world that has done what we do. And nobody will ever copy what we do. You know what? It's too freaking hard. Honestly, it is too hard. Have questions? Come on, there's got to be some more questions.
Yeah. I don't know if you can answer this, but how to explain it? If you're selling Lenards products in supermarkets, which might be situated near a franchisee, is that then not affecting him directly?
No, it's not. Put it this way, there's two sides of the argument. First of all, contractually, we wouldn't do it. So we wouldn't contractually put a franchisee or put a supermarket in the same rates. But at the same time, we have 7 shops in Townsville working within 100 metres of each other. So where does a supermarket doing $40+ million to us, there's a customer who's going to buy dinner that night. So it doesn't really worry you. We have 2 shops in shopping centres. You know, so there's an argument to say it won't affect because it's a captured market. And our biggest customer complaint, believe it or not, is we're not at handy enough for when a customer wants our product. So, you know, we've got a lot more, but we can't put franchisees in every store because we sell chicken and meals. We don't sell rump steak, we don't sell these other products. So our turnover is we've got to be very careful where we put a franchisee. It's got to be a high traffic flow to make sure that they maximise their potential. But yeah, contractually wouldn't do it.
Actually, Len, I'll go on. I might jump in if I can. What's the scariest moment of being in business for you?
Malcolm would probably say the casserole I made down in... Malcolm over here would probably say the scariest moment in his life anyway was the casserole I made after about 6 beers in the grand final. It's more than 6 gardens. But look, there's been a lot of scary moments. Nothing, believe it or not, I've never felt uncomfortable financially. I've always felt comfortable within my ability to be able to make sure the business is going to be okay. So there are times, right back in the early day, my first partner was, I never mentioned Neville, but my first partner was my original accountant. And he came into business with me and I came up here to start work and did all structuring. And when I looked over my shoulder, we were about 8 stores old.